Good morning. I am Tim from Plugged Into Leadership, your outlet for leadership success. You have decided to join me and watch the Tea with Tim show. I got my Romulo's chocolate mug with me. If anyone's from Erie, Pennsylvania, you know Romulo's chocolate. Woo woo, Romulo's. If you have never had Romulo's chocolate, let me just say you're missing out. But, you know, tea tastes pretty good out of a Romulo's chocolate mug. I'm excited that you have decided to join me this morning. And I'm going to talk about this problem that I have definitely had in the past, that I have experienced and lived out the I hate my job situation. There have definitely been times in my life where I have disliked to a great degree my job. And maybe there's times in your life you have as well. And maybe you're in that position right now where you don't like your job. I had this job one time where I was a cook at a restaurant. I won't name the restaurant. And my boss was a 6'4" bodybuilder. And that wasn't why I disliked him, but that was his personality was so big and he was so in your face about things. He always had these weird comments and it was just not a very good place to work. And another job that I had that I really didn't like was I cleaned out the inside of big CNC machines. They're big, huge, giant machines where they carve out parts or tools with metal, and I had to climb inside and shovel out the CNC machine debris and change the oil, the coolant that kept the things cool. It was not a very fun job, and I didn't like either one of those jobs. And there's other jobs that I had that I didn't necessarily particularly like or couldn't wait to get out of. And this is a common thing. So many people have just go through life. They get up, they do their 9 to 5, or they do their 11 to 8, or they do their 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, and they really do not like what they do. They just don't like it. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk about this morning is maybe a way that we could fix that. So let's acknowledge some of the things that contribute, some of the massive things that contribute to us not liking our jobs. I'm going to pull some information from a really great book by one of my favorite authors, The Truth About Employee Engagement by Pat Lencioni. Pat Lencioni is one of those leadership authors that I like a lot because he does something a little bit different. He tells a story, a fable, a leadership fable is what he calls it. So in his books, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, this one by Pat Lencioni, Getting Naked, and he's written a number of other books as well. He kind of creates this scenario. He creates this story of a company with a few main characters, and he kind of plays the whole thing out. And then at the end, he kind of wraps it up with his model or what he was thinking. So I want to go through just a few of these this morning, and I bet either you fit into one or all 3 of these categories if you are listening to this video and you are like, I do not like my current job. The first one that he talks about is anonymity. But that leads to you not liking your job. When you aren't known, when people don't take interest in who you are, and not just anybody in the company, but usually your manager or direct supervisor, if they're not taking interest in who you are and what things that you like and what your passions are and where you want to go in life, that can really lead to us not really liking where we work. Another thing that we can that can contribute is this idea of irrelevance. Think of all of the rock stars, the famous people that we have heard about that are, in rehab or strung out on drugs or whatever. And we're like, man, you got it so good. You're making so much money. You're famous. How can you feel that you hate what you do and hate your life? It's because they feel irrelevant. Have you ever heard the term alone in a crowded room? That's oftentimes what we feel. We go to work and we feel like what we're doing isn't contributing to anything significant in our lives, that we're here just button pushers or clicking things or doing whatever, and nothing that we do actually contributes to anything meaningful in anybody else's life. The third one is this made-up word that Pat Lencioni made up called immeasurement. I am measurement. Immeasurement. And it's this concept of not having clear goals in your position that you can work towards, that you can actually work things out. and continue to shoot and reach goals. That there's no rhyme or reason to kind of the things that you're doing, and you understand whether things are good or bad, and maybe it's very arbitrary where some days you're like, man, that was really good, and you're like, what did I do? And they're like, I don't know, you just did really good yesterday. And you're like, but how do I do that? And you're like, oh, well, do it again tomorrow. And you're like, do what? I have no idea. So that leads to some some internal conflict between us. So if you're feeling like this, if you're feeling like, man, I really don't like my job and I really wish that I could, and you looked at the title of this video and you're like, sure, I'm in that position, I don't like my job, and I really would like a way to fix it. Here's the first piece of advice that I can give, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more next week, dive into this idea of conversational intelligence a bit more. See, our culture at work comes from or stems from our relationships with others, and our relationships with others come from our conversations, the nature of our conversations. That's a model from the conversational intelligence book I talked about yesterday. So the first thing that we can do, the number one thing that we can do, is we can have a conversation with some of our peers and maybe our direct supervisor, or if you're a supervisor or a manager, you can have a conversation with your team. And just be open. Come at them with a spirit of curiosity and try to avoid the right-wrong scenario. Come at them with open-ended questions. Say, hey, what's going on? How can we solve this problem of not feeling known? Or you might go to your boss and say, what are my goals? Like, can we work out some goals with my position? And that is really going to help you set a good tone. Now, the way that you come at this conversation isn't a, hey, I need to set goals if I'm going to stay here and like it. No. Come at the conversation with a sense of curiosity. So those are a few things that we can do. We're going to talk about this a lot next week. But the reality of your culture stems from the reality of your relationship, stems from the health of your conversation. So we're going to work on, and we're going to really think about next week how we can have those better conversations and improve our work. Now, maybe our job and maybe the thing that we're doing, the buttons that we're pushing or the things that we're putting together, that may not necessarily change. But when our relationships start to change, when we kind of have some clear direction, when we feel known at work, the actual what we're doing every single day might not be as critical. And I know for me that in the times in my life when I have really not liked the place that I was working, it came down to those three things. Now, yes, there's some pieces of my actual job that I didn't like, but it would have been much better overall if those three things were working. And so we're going to learn a little bit more next week on how to do that. But the first thing I would challenge you to do is have a conversation with people and come at them with the idea of curiosity instead of a right-wrong. I'm going to tell you what to do, and this is why we're doing it, to come at the conversation with your own attitude beginning of curiosity. It's Friday. I took some time because I had this topic that I really wanted to talk about to do the drawing for this week ahead of time. The drawing winner is Courtney. So Courtney, thank you so much for sharing this video this week. You will get a Boss or Leader book. If you are interested in getting a free Boss or Leader book, you can go to Wednesday's video and you can share that video. My lights are going on and off. You can share that video from Wednesday and you can get a free book from Dave Ferguson sent to you. I think there's about 6 left. So 6 people, if you haven't shared that video, go ahead and do that. As always, you can find this Tea with Tim now on YouTube and on iTunes. And if you share or like the video on YouTube, you can also be entered into the drawing. If you leave a comment on iTunes or a review on iTunes, you will also be entered into the weekly drawing. So take some time and do that. If you missed it or you can't watch it on YouTube in the morning or watch it on Facebook in the morning, you can catch it on YouTube or iTunes. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate that you were here and checking things out. Monday, we're going to be talking more about this conversational intelligence thing. I think it's so critical to just a lot of things that are going on in our lives. And I'm excited for you and where you're going in your leadership. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you on Monday.